What is up, people? Van from the Vaniverse gaming channel here, bringing you another review video. Today's video is going to be on the DLC called The Lost Valley for Solasta Crown of the Magister. This DLC released in April of this year, and I finally had some time to play through it. And I want to give you guys my feedback about the game, what the DLC has to offer, to see if this is something you guys want to pick up either during the Steam Summer Sale or just in general. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, and if you want to subscribe to the channel, you'll see all my videos on Solasta and D&D and all my other content. And without further ado, let's get started. So for those of you who have not played Solasta or have not watched my channel, the Lost DLC is actually the third DLC that has come out for Solasta Crown of the Magister since its official release date in March of 21. The first DLC was actually a free one, and it brought us the Sorcerer class. The second DLC was the Primal Calling DLC, which brought us the Druid and the Barbarian classes. And now this third paid DLC brings us new content, a co-op mode, and also additional subclasses, as well as other things which we'll cover here in a minute. So let's first talk about the actual campaign itself. The campaign is a standalone campaign that can take your characters from level 1 to levels 12. In addition to that, the story is unique. It is completely different. Your party actually starts off in a small camp that's outside of the municipality, outside of Masgarth, and it is you're looking for somebody. There's a person that has gone missing that the municipality really wants you to capture, and you have to go find him. But you enter in a cave, you look for signs, and somehow you find yourself in a very nasty place, and you are now trapped, and you are in a valley that you cannot escape. So you're looking for a guy to bring him back, but in addition to that, you're also looking for a way to get out of the valley. In order to get out of the valley, you will come across many, many different factions, and depending on which faction you choose will change the outcome of the game. So in this valley, there is a ruler, and there was a lot of different people who do not like this ruler. And so depending on which faction you choose, you are going to help that faction overthrow this ruler. Now, you can be friendly with multiple factions, but what's really great about this DLC that was not in the main storyline is the more quests you do for a specific faction, not only is it going to change the outcome of the story, which allows for some great replayability because you can keep playing through it and choosing different factions, but on top of that, it is going to start putting you against other factions. So it is designed that if you pick a specific faction and you do quests for them, ultimately you're going to be doing the counter for another faction, which could lead to a conflict. There was a time where I think I went down the wrong faction choice, and somehow I made dang near everyone in town want to kill me. And that was how I had to play the game, is I couldn't walk into a town without getting attacked by 57 guards. Very, very cool, and I really like that they did that, because in the original game, it felt very roller coaster, very linear. I knew that this was going to be the outcome, and really the way that I talk to everybody isn't going to change. Like, my personality of my characters change how I talk to them, and it might have affected my ability scores and my checks and all that, but the story was the story. With this, I actually was hesitant to make certain decisions and siding with certain factions because they all seemed kind of shady, and I didn't necessarily know who I wanted to side with. So I really like the fact that this DLC makes your decisions important and feel like they have weight on the campaign, and that's what feels like a 5th edition D&D tabletop game. So I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. Now, the other great thing about this DLC is you don't have to play through it alone. So, co-op mode. With co-op mode, this functions very similar to how they do co-op mode in Divinity Original Sin 2, Baldur's Gate 3, etc., where if you start the game with other people, everyone creates their character, but ultimately it's in the host game. So if you are the host, then people will create their characters in your game, but as soon as they leave your game, you now can have control of the full party. So this is something where if you want to have a separate game for your buddies, and then you just don't play it by yourself, every time they come in, you guys can play through it together. So I really like that they added co-op mode to this, because not only are you making decisions, and not only do your characters have their own opinion, but kind of like Baldur's Gate 3, is this now gives you the ability, if you're playing with other people, to maybe sway the decisions, because you all have to kind of agree on what decision you want to make. And so I really like that they're adding a multiplayer function to this game. It is a 5th edition game, and so having the ability to play with your friends makes it just even that much better. On top of the additional campaign, and on top of the co-op mode, they added in the 9 subclasses. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on all the 9 subclasses. I'll just kind of list the subclass that they added in for each of the classes, but I will be doing videos on classes, races, subclasses, spells, blah, blah. So if you like this content, you like Solasta, you like D&D, go ahead and sub to the channel, click the little bell. When I make those other videos, then you'll be the first to know. So the classes that came out is, so with the commander is going to be the fighter subclass. So the next subclass is the rogue, which would be the hoodlum. The next subclass would be the Oath of Judgment paladin. Then you have the mischief domain cleric. You have the court mage wizard. You have the swiftblade ranger. You have the haunted soul sorcerer, path of the claw barbarian, and then you have the circle of balance druid. Now, because the druid and the barbarian were part of the primal calling paid DLC, obviously you can't have access to those subclasses unless you purchase that DLC as well. So just keep that in mind. But pretty much you get a new subclass for every class. Now, some of these subclasses are really cool. I really quite enjoyed them. Some of these subclasses, I believe, are actually in the they're in the D&D books, but because Solasta only has access to the SRD, they're modified a little bit. So they seem to play like subclasses that you would see in the published like 5th edition Wizard of the Coast stuff, but they have their own little flares to make them unique, so it's not copyright, I'm assuming. Now, we talked about story, talked about co-op, we talked about the different classes. Now I want to go into some of the other additional things that you get with this, and that's the campaign is different in when you played the main story and you played through the main quest line, it felt very spread out. All the maps felt very small, like there wasn't a ton to them, maybe 2 or 3 rooms. But in the DLC, it's different. It's in a valley, so it's much more condensed. There's not nearly as many places to go, but I feel like every place you go are much bigger. There's much more content. They just seem larger, and there's a lot more going on. And in addition to that, there's a lot of things that you can come back for. Like you might have to, there might be a door, and you can't open it. You got to find the keys, and they might be 17 hours down the way when you said, oh hey, I found this key, oh yeah, I forgot there was that door. And so they do a really good job with packing the content into much smaller spaces, which makes it feel more alive, if that makes sense. I feel like when I play the DLC, it's bigger, it's more robust, there's more to do, and I spend less time traveling between the different areas. It could just be a feeling, that's just how I feel about the game. Now, in addition to the areas, there's also new monsters. So all of the combat seems to be different because you're fighting things that you haven't fought before, and a lot of them are iconic 5th edition type creatures. You got hags now, you got giants, you got trolls, which I think you fought trolls in the original one, but trolls plural. I think there's golems, there's all sorts of fun new things that you haven't fought before. So like some games like to do a copy and paste, they just kind of say, okay, here's a skeleton and we're going to copy it into this other skeleton, or here's this and we're just going to reskin it and make it look different, but it feels the same. With this, I feel like I'm fighting different creatures that have different spells, different moves, and so I actually enjoyed all the different content they added that you don't see in the original campaign. In addition to that, they did add new spells. So depending on which class you pick, I had more spells available than I had originally, which was really nice. On top of that, they added a lot more magical items, which was great. So one of my favorite ones is the dwarven helmet that like gives you constitution, but it also has a 50% chance of like giving you a beard. And so I think on my 2 female characters, I had them both put on the helmet at one time, and they both grew the beard. And once you grow the beard, you can't get rid of the beard. So it was pretty funny that all my female characters had a beard, which was fantastic. So all of that being said, if you play through the campaign, if you play through on a harder difficulty, there's a very, very good chance it'll probably take you, if you play through most of it, 25, 30 hours. If you're quick, you only play through the main content, you have it on a lower difficulty, you might get 20, 25 hours out of it. But it really depends on the person, the play style, and how they're trying to crank through it. Some people are going to get on and say I blew through it in 10 hours probably, and other people can get on and say I spent 50 hours and I'm not done. It just depends on the person. But at the end of the day, for 12 bucks, 13 bucks, whatever the cost is, and then getting it on a discount, the amount of additional content, subclasses, the ability to play through multiple different endings and multiple different factions, this DLC is 100% worth the money. I really enjoyed playing through it the first time. I'm absolutely going to play through it additional times. I already have some of my friends set up to play through it as a group, and so I'm really interested to hear your guys' feedback on this, because I love 5th edition D&D. I feel Solasta is one of the best games to show players how to play D&D, which is why I probably am going to make a whole playlist on teaching D&D using Solasta, just because it's that good. But what do you guys think? Post it in the comments below. Do you like Solasta? Do you like the 5th edition D&D rule set and how it applies to Solasta? And more specifically, what do you think about this DLC? Did you think it was great, or did you think it was just not worth the money? Would love to hear from you guys. So that is my spiel on the Lost Valley DLC. I am going to let the video play out so you guys can kind of see a combat without me talking. But hopefully this gives you enough insight into the game, into the DLC, that it helps you decide whether you should pick it up or not. Whether you do or don't, either way, doesn't matter to me, but I sure hope you like the content, and I sure hope you keep watching. So this is Van from the Vaniverse Gaming channel. Don't leave yet. There's more video, but we'll catch you later. Pete, cheers, and peace out.
I don't believe it.
Natura vivo Valmis.
Arcana, Muto, Malmis.
Natura Encho. Malmis.
Bravo! Victory is yours! Lucky? Perhaps.
Duto Viribe.
Natura Encho Malmis.
Ha! That must have hurt.
Not bad, eh?
Good kill. Arcana Evo Malmis. Damn.
Ha!
Natura Encho Malmis.
I thought you could fight.